And this is the 5-Minute Podcast Review for Friday, December 22nd, 2017. And I think I've got a reasonably good spread of different and interesting podcasts to go through this episode. Hopefully most of them are new to you, and hopefully at least a couple catch your interest. And just before I get into it, I wanted to let you know this podcast, the 5-Minute Podcast Review, is now also available on Spotify. I don't know if that's relevant to you since you've already obviously found a way to listen, but I don't know, maybe you prefer Spotify or you want to group all your listening, that is music and podcasts, in the one place. I think, though, the real benefit is that Spotify makes listening to podcasts a whole lot easier for people using Android devices, which generally don't have a built-in podcast player. So anyway, if you know an Android user or just a keen Spotify user and you think they might find the 5-Minute Podcast Review useful listening, let them know they can find it on Spotify. Okay, so back to business and our first podcast, which is Childproof. This is a new podcast that describes itself as, quote, an unproduced TV sitcom, which I think may actually be the case. The concept is around a youngish, child-free by choice couple as they comically navigate their way through a world where pretty much all of their friends have kids. There's 6 episodes in total, all up now, so it's great for a short-term binge over the break, a diversion on your playlist without making that long-term commitment. The episodes were recorded live on stage at the Melbourne Fringe Festival, and I'd like to say it's in the style of an old-time radio drama, you know, actors standing around a microphone with an effects artist making sound effects on the fly. I'd like to say that, but I heard or read an interview with Tony Martin, one of the writers, who totally shunned the idea of comparing it with an old-time radio play. And he's right, definitely in terms of style, it's nothing like that. The tone is contemporary, smart and funny, which is why I really believe the description that it's an unproduced TV sitcom script. It certainly does sound like that it could be. In addition to the actors, the concept uses a narrator to fill us in on the setting for each scene and any other story detail we need to know. So let's have a listen to a small clip which will give you a feel for what you can expect from Childproof.
Thank God it's not Bring Your Kids.
Ian and Jennifer pull up outside Wayne's McMansion. The first thing they see is the My Family car disgorging the kids from earlier.
What?
Is it too late to turn round?
Someone may have seen us.
Fuck!
Ian steps out of the car and into the path of a double pushchair maneuvered by a hipster couple. The dad wears a baby in a front papoose.
Oh, hi.
Hi, you guys got a babysitter?
Before he can answer, the dad turns and nearly clocks him with another baby in a back papoose.
Strap yourself in.
Ian spots Wayne's Roto-Rooter van. It has a cartoon logo that reads, The Mad Rooter, bagging roots all over town.
Is that his new catchphrase?
Yes, and he's very happy with it, so don't...
The door is opened by Jennifer's brother Wayne, holding a baby.
Hey, what do you reckon, Ian? How good's the logo?
Can you even say that?
What, isn't there a shop called F-U-C-K?
I don't think there is.
You didn't say it was Bring Your Kids.
You don't have any kids.
Correct?
Here, take this one. I've got to go to...
A fuck shop?
Hey, there's kids here.
I know.
Jennifer awkwardly passes the baby to Ian and snatches a glass of wine from a passing tray. Ian hands the bag of bottles to Wayne and tries to look like he knows how to hold a baby.
Ah, very nice. Quality gear. Come on through, Shell's here somewhere.
With Ian holding the baby like an unexploded bomb, Wayne leads them into the house. A group of mums and dads, including Wayne's wife Shelley, are having a boisterous conversation.
Hey, look who's just arrived from East Berlin.
Ian hands the baby to Shelley.
Shell, this old bloke's not making you have more of these, I hope.
No, 3 is plenty.
Oh, I think we should at least try for another one, Dal. Maybe tonight. Twice.
Oh, my God.
You love it. Hey, Shell, could you mind these two? I ought to get the rest of that roux out of the garage freezer.
Ian and Jennifer lean against the kitchen bench.
Christ almighty!
He lifts a loose Blu-ray disc from a pool of jam.
We're in the jam chamber.
All right, you two, come and join the debate.
What debate?
Should we have to pay $150 for a DVD of the school concert?
But the kids do all the work. Why should we have to pay for it? It's bullshit.
What are our school fees for?
Who needs a DVD? Damien just filmed ours on his iPhone.
I gave Josh my old iPhone 6. Just rolled his eyes.
Said he'd be embarrassed to take it out at school.
And this after he's got me coaching his soccer team.
Same here, twice a week.
Ian tries awkwardly to sit on a stool and crushes a plastic toy.
I have to drive him everywhere because anyone could be a pedophile.
Are you getting any sleep?
When would I be getting sleep?
Wayne has returned carrying a large slab of meat. He enjoys seeing Ian and Jennifer squirm during such discussions.
Hey, what have you two been doing?
All eyes turn to Jennifer and Ian.
Oh, nothing. Just work and reading.
We have so many DVD box sets piled up. It's exhausting.
No one is impressed.
Are you guys watching The Murdering? Body parts from a Danish MP are found in 17 different countries. It's the best one since Schmoinklompf.
I just can't watch any violent shows since we had the twins.
Oh, same here.
We just watch Pirate Pig Party over and over.
It's for kids, but it works for adults too.
It's really funny.
Is there anyone here who doesn't have kids?
A woman standing next to him bursts into tears and runs from the room.
Jeez, mate, you're on fire.
Okay, so I'm still only about halfway through the episodes, but I'm really liking Childproof as a change of listening. I definitely think if you're looking for something different to listen through over the break, you should at least give the first episode of Childproof a go, whether you have kids or not. Next up is Family Ghosts, and this is another new podcast series, been around since November, and I'm just getting into it. But the concept is based around the idea that all families have secrets, skeletons in the closet, you could say. It could be a never properly explained event or a mystery relative from 1 or 2 generations ago, or something from more recent times, a sweet grandmother with a dark secret, an uncle who led a double life, a sibling who disappeared. One episode is a story told by Kayla. Her family home burned down in 2010, killing her mentally disturbed brother, who was assumed to have started the fire. But now Kayla has a new theory with plenty of circumstantial evidence. She thinks her mother, who died naturally a few years after the house fire, was actually the culprit. I mentioned the first podcast, Childproof, was a good one to get into over the holiday period, but I reckon that goes double for Family Ghosts. I mean, at a time of the year when families everywhere are getting together, sometimes under duress, sometimes trapped together for a little bit too long, what better way to spend the time than using the Family Ghosts podcast as a springboard to finally shining the light on your own family ghosts. Anyhow, Family Ghosts, the podcast, is very nicely produced in that great audio storytelling style, and just might get you wanting to binge listen to all 6 episodes of the first season. On to podcast number 3, which is The Creative Relay. I think what first caught my interest about The Creative Relay was its innovative format. It's basically an interview podcast talking to people in the advertising industry, but the interesting twist is that the interviewee in one episode becomes the interviewer in the next, hence the title, The Creative Relay. And each interviewee come interviewer gets to choose who they want to interview in the next episode. And usually so far that's been someone else in the advertising industry that they've been a fan of from a distance but never really gotten to know. So while the podcast sticks to its central theme of getting to know people in the advertising industry, how they work, their thoughts on creativity, what makes good advertising, that type of thing, it nonetheless has an evolving style as the personality and approach of the interviewer changes with each episode. I think The Creative Relay should be interesting to listeners beyond just those already working in advertising, although that's obviously the primary target. But if you're looking to get into advertising, if you're generally interested in creative thinking, or if you just like getting that fly on the wall insight into how different industries think and work, then check out The Creative Relay. Righto, podcast number 4 is Why'd You Push That Button? Kicking off just a few months ago in October, Why'd You Push That Button is yet another new podcast out there with its first short season of 10 episodes all up now. Why'd You Push That Button takes the casual psychological approach to why we do the things we do with the apps on our mobile devices, like why do we choose to turn on location sharing or use an app like the iPhone's Find Friends app? Or how do we decide to keep or delete text threads from friends, family, or significant others? One episode looks at why many choose to hit send on their naked selfies and the influence this has had on the design features of a range of dating apps. The two hosts draw on the real-life experiences of themselves and their friends to drive the conversation, but they also bring in app developers and other experts to round out the conversations. The episodes so far are all around 30 minutes of easy listening conversation, and if you're a regular smartphone user, you'll probably hear plenty of moments that leave you thinking, yep, that sounds like me. So that's Why'd You Push That Button? On to the next podcast, The Other F Word, which is the nicely named title of the 5th and final podcast for this episode. The other F word is, in the producer's own words, all about taking the shame out of failure. Ultimately, the other F word is a clever spin on the interview genre in an environment where there's just no shortage of podcasts talking about success. Episodes are typically an interview, sometimes with a well-known celebrity like Sharon Stone, or there was an episode with John Cryer, the guy from 2.5 Men, but most episodes are with people you probably haven't heard of. The common theme, though, is hearing the interviewees talk about failures in their lives and how they worked through these failures, what they learned from the failures, and often how working through failure helped inform the way to eventual success. I read that the creators of the podcast originally applied to a course sponsored by NPR, which was designed to help people get their podcast ideas off the ground, but NPR ironically rejected their application. They went ahead and made their podcast anyway, and it's become a great success with many thousands of downloads per episode. So I guess that's a neat story of a podcast about failure becoming a big success off the back of its own initial failure, if that's not too meta a way of putting it. And actually, the first episode kicks off with the 4 hosts themselves each recounting failures from their own lives. But since then, they've put out another 60 or so episodes, pretty much an episode a week. As a way into this podcast, I'd suggest starting with the first episode, the one where the hosts talk about their own failures, then pick a few other episodes off the list that catch your interest. And you should have a listen to the most recent episode that was recorded at the Museum of Failure. So this is a touring museum. It's currently in Los Angeles till February 4. The Museum of Failure's founder is the guest on this episode, and it's a pretty funny one, hearing about some of the 130 exhibits, all failures from the Betamax video recorder and Trump University to a rentable sex doll product. It sounds like my kind of museum, and if you're anywhere near Los Angeles between now and February, you should check it out. But in any case, you can hear about it on the latest episode of The Other F Word. And while you're there, maybe download a few other episodes, maybe even subscribe. And that's it for this episode of the 5-Minute Podcast Review, where we looked at Childproof, Family Ghosts, The Creative Relay, Why'd You Push That Button, and The Other F Word. Links to all are on your screen. And don't forget, you can now get the 5-Minute Podcast Review on Spotify, although I don't think the on-screen links actually work on Spotify. But anyway, and as we head into the holiday period, catching up with family, friends, gifts, all that stuff, maybe new phones, have a think about anyone you know who should get into podcast listening, and let them know the best podcast to start with is obviously this one. Otherwise, enjoy the break. I'll see you in early 2018. Thanks for listening.